For Stephen Robard, life had really just begun. He had just married the love of his life, and his teenage daughter Marie had recently moved in with them. But in the winter of 1993, everything would change forever. The family had settled in for an early dinner, tacos, Stephen's favorite. He enjoyed every bite, thanked his family for the meal, and then headed off to church. But within just 2 hours, Stephen collapsed. He couldn't breathe. An autopsy later revealed that he had died from a simple heart attack. No warning. No prior history. Nothing suspicious. But what no one knew was that Stephen's final meal might have been the very thing that killed him. Marie Robards was born into what seemed like a normal life. Her parents, Stephen and Beth, were high school sweethearts who married young, just 18. 2 years later, Marie was born. But that kind of beginning doesn't always last. As Marie grew up, her parents' marriage began to fall apart. Stephen struggled with depression, moving from job to job, and eventually the pressure became too much. They divorced. Marie stayed with her mother, Beth, and only saw her dad occasionally. Still, Stephen never fully disappeared from her life. He had served in the Navy, and despite his struggles, he kept trying to rebuild. Eventually, he found stability. He began working as a mail carrier for the United States Postal Service, a job he genuinely enjoyed. He was outdoors, active, and slowly starting to feel like himself again. Around that time, he met someone new, Sandra. For the first time in a while, things felt steady. Meanwhile, Marie was growing into a young woman who was hard to ignore. By 16, she was a straight-A student, driven, involved, and well-liked. She did well in school, participated in activities, and naturally stood out. On the surface, she had everything going for her. But at home, things were shifting again. Beth had remarried, and Marie didn't get along with her stepfather. The tension grew quietly but steadily until it became clear something had to change. So Marie moved in with her dad. For her, this wasn't a setback. It was something she genuinely wanted. She looked forward to spending time with him, and Stephen felt the same. They got along extremely well, like two peas in a pod, always enjoying each other's company. By then, Stephen's life looked different. He had a stable job, a bigger apartment in Fort Worth, and a sense that things were finally falling into place. And now, for the first time in years, he had the chance to truly be there for his daughter, and he embraced it. They settled into a routine. Marie got along well with Sandra, helped around the house, and often cooked for the family, especially Mexican food, one of Stephen's favorites. For a while, everything felt right. Like maybe this was how life was always meant to be. But it wouldn't last. Because soon tragedy would come creeping in, and everything in Marie's life would change. It was February 17, 1993, a normal evening in the Robards' household. Stephen had just had dinner, tacos made by his daughter Marie. He enjoyed every bite, thanked her for the meal, and then headed out to attend a church service. But shortly after arriving, something felt off. He couldn't quite explain it, but he knew something wasn't right. He felt short of breath, uneasy, distressed. Still, he managed to stay through the service and eventually made it back home. But things only got worse. Stephen's condition began to decline rapidly. Sandra and Marie grew increasingly worried as time passed, and he showed no signs of improving. Eventually, Sandra called 911 and an ambulance was dispatched. According to Sandra, Stephen felt extremely nauseous before eventually losing consciousness. The ambulance rushed to the house. But it was too late. Before help could even arrive, Stephen had passed away. He was only 38 years old. Sandra and Marie were right there beside him in his final moments. But nothing could have prepared them for the grief that followed. Because of his young age, the family requested an autopsy. They had no idea how his health had deteriorated so suddenly. The results came back: heart attack. Shocked everyone. Stephen had no known heart issues. But heart attacks can be unpredictable. They don't always come with warnings. There was nothing suspicious in the report. No signs of foul play. Nothing malicious. Just an unexpected death. And yet, the loss hit everyone hard. Sandra had lost the love of her life. Marie had lost her father. Beth had lost the father of her child. The last thing Marie remembered was how happy her dad had been during dinner, just before he walked out the door. She was only 16. No child should ever have to go through something like that. Stephen's death came as a devastating shock to everyone. Or did it? Without her father, staying in Fort Worth became difficult for Marie. She was sent to live with her grandparents in Mansfield, Texas. Her life as she knew it had completely changed. She packed her things and moved, enrolling at Mansfield High School. Despite everything, the transition was surprisingly smooth. Marie was intelligent, and even during such a difficult time, she threw herself into her studies to stay focused. She eventually graduated and went on to attend the University of Texas, studying pre-med. She wanted to become a pathologist. To support her education, she used the $60,000 she received from her father's life insurance. It's heartbreaking that Stephen wasn't there to see his daughter graduate or pursue her dreams. But even in death, he played a role in her future. But if his death was purely accidental, then why are we here? This is a true crime story. Because things were not what they seemed. Detectives had already begun to suspect that something wasn't right. Stephen Robards' death may not have been accidental at all. The autopsy said heart attack. But was that really the truth? What if there were warning signs that went unnoticed? Or worse, what if someone close to him was the warning? Police had the same thought. And while everyone else mourned, investigators quietly began digging deeper. They were convinced something was off. They just needed proof. About a year after Stephen's death, police were approached by a woman named Stacy High. She came forward with something unusual. It started with a scene from Hamlet. Stacy had been reading a passage when she looked up and noticed the person next to her in tears. That person was her best friend, Marie Robards. After moving to Mansfield, Marie had become close friends with Stacy. They were inseparable, always together, always getting along. During their senior year, they were assigned to read Hamlet for an English project. As they read a scene where King Claudius struggles with guilt after murdering his brother, Stacy was impressed by the writing. She looked up to share her thoughts and saw Marie crying uncontrollably. Then out of nowhere, Marie asked a strange question. "Do you think it's possible for someone to not have a conscience?" The question caught Stacy completely off guard. But something in Marie's expression made it clear. She had been hiding something. Within minutes, Marie broke down and confessed. At first, Stacy assumed it was something minor, like sneaking out or a teenage mistake. But what Marie said next was something she never expected. Marie confessed that she had done something terrible. She confessed to murder. Not just any murder. She confessed to killing her own father. Stephen's death was not accidental. He had been poisoned. And the person responsible was 16-year-old Marie. Stacy was in shock. Marie, the perfect student, the straight-A girl who never caused trouble, had just admitted to something unthinkable. Her perfect image was just a facade. And the truth was far darker. Marie didn't know it yet. But Stacy would go to the police. Because something like this couldn't stay a secret. Stacy went to the police and told them everything. At that point, Stephen's case was still under investigation. Officers had always been suspicious, but they lacked proof. Now they finally had a lead. Still, one question remained. How? According to Stacy, Marie had revealed everything. One day in chemistry class, the teacher introduced a white powder, highly toxic if ingested. It could disrupt potassium levels in the body, something critical for heart function, and cause symptoms like nausea, stomach pain, and heart complications. Exactly what Stephen had experienced. Marie became fascinated with the substance. And then, she made a plan. She stole some of it from the lab and hid it in her bag. About a week later, she used it. On the night of his death, Marie had prepared dinner, tacos. Stephen's favorite. She laced them with the poison. The amount? Nearly 28 times the lethal dose. Stephen ate the meal happily, completely unaware. Marie sat there watching. Waiting. Within hours, his condition worsened, just as she expected. He died shortly after. And she was there the entire time. She didn't try to help. She didn't say a word. Stacy had promised to keep the secret. But in the end, her conscience won. He told the police everything. Now investigators needed confirmation. The school checked their lab records. A page describing that specific chemical was missing. Then came the final step, testing Stephen's tissue. The original autopsy hadn't looked for poison. Specialized tests were required. So they ran them. And there was toxin. Proof that Stephen had been poisoned. The case was complete. It was time to arrest Marie Robards. At the time, Marie was attending university in Austin. Police went there and arrested her. She showed no emotion. During interrogation, she confessed. But she claimed she never intended to kill her father. She only wanted to make him sick. Why? Because she didn't want to live with him anymore. That was it. Stephen wasn't abusive. He wasn't cruel. He was doing his best as a father. But for Marie, it wasn't enough. She wanted to go back to her mother. And instead of waiting, she chose a different path. A deadly one. Ironically, after Stephen's death, her mother moved to Florida, without taking Marie with her. In the end, Marie got nothing she wanted. Her actions changed nothing. Except everything. Her trial took place in 1995. She pleaded not guilty and was tried as an adult. In 1996, she was found guilty and sentenced to 27 years in prison. The public was divided. Some sympathized with her. Others saw her as cold and calculated. In 2003, she was released on parole after serving around 9 years. Today, she lives under a new identity. A normal life. After taking one that could never be replaced. All because she didn't want to live with her father anymore.